right. The good news is that as at the time I'm making this recording, the police in Oyo State just busted those who kidnapped the relative of former Minister of Power. That's a very good news. It's been a kind of challenging period in the history of our nation, and every one of us know that. On the 15th of May, 2026, this year, some gunmen, they walk into school in Orire local government of your state, and they took 42 children and 7 of their teachers into the forest. In fact, one of the teachers, of course, a mathematics instructor named Michael Oyedokun, his captors unalive him, and they film it live for everyone to see. As I record this video, that is more than 3 weeks later, those children and the remaining teachers, they're still nowhere to be found. They're still not home yet. I want to see with every one of us, for a moment, not to compete for headline, but to give facts about the country we all live today. Before that, I want to welcome every one of you to this intelligence brief. I'm Oludare Ogunlana. I'm the founder and the CEO of Ogun Security Research and Strategic Consulting, an intelligence-based firm here in Texas, United States. And for this program, we look past the noise. We ask questions. We ask some of those harder questions that nobody's going to ask. Not only what happened, but what it means and what it demands of every one of us. And today I have only one subject. For some of you that have been following me in recent time, I've not been coming out with the series of videos because I've been busy doing some other things. It's only one topic: the security crisis in Nigeria, where we stand, where it stands right now, why it is spreading, and part of the war, which of course nobody's naming, nobody's talking about. And I want to start with the map first to know where we are. Let's look at what happened in Oyo State recently. In fact, I've been waiting for the police to release the list of the names of those who are behind the kidnap of Mr. Adelabu, the former Minister of Power. Are they Fulanis? Are they Yorubas? I'm coming to that later. So I'm starting from Oyo State because Oyo tells you how far this has traveled. In the past, the Southwest, for years, we think nothing will come to Southwest. We never believe this, this kind of violence, kidnapping, banditry. We never believe it's going to happen in the Southwest. And I want to tell every one of us today that that belief is gone. When our men, when they eat that 3 schools in a single coordinated attack in Orire local government, now the unalive teacher in captivity, and they are still holding all those children as I speak. The response on ground has been a kind of mix, a mix of grief, pressure, and confusion. Teachers across Nigeria, they are now on indefinite strike. The House of Representatives just passed a motion begging the law enforcement and security agencies to ensure that they bring all those kids home. Not only bring them home, but bring them home alive. They are warning that every hour lost, and those children are still with these bandits, we may risk losing them forever. And I share that, sentiment as well. The president has approved thousands of forest guard for area and also ordered the agency to act with immediate effect and automatic alacrity. As we were dealing with that, something happened, which I want everyone to pay close attention to, because it's part of the story, which of course most people miss. A message went viral, claiming that those children and teachers that have been rescued alive. They attributed that claim to one of the special advisors to the president, which of course they don't name. The families, they allow themselves to hope. The police then had to come out and issue statement after statement saying this was false. No rescue had taken place. They had to deny separately because there was another rumor that one of the kids already died in custody. So what we've seen here now is that the information space itself became a second battlefield. And I want you to hold that thought because I will return to that very soon. Here is why Oyo is not an isolated tragedy, right? It is a symptom of a national condition. And if every one of us have seen that, I've seen a lot of people saying the same thing. If you go to North in Katsina State, on the 30th of May, bandits ambushed a retired Major General, that's Abubakar Abe, a former Director of Defense Information, the same man who always stood on the podium and spoke for armed forces. They took him and his wife. They shot his driver, but his driver was lucky, was able to drive the car to police station. So, as of today, they have demanded a prisoner exchange. They are not asking for money. They are asking for the release of their own detained members. And that is not the behavior of common criminals, if you look at that. And that is the behavior of organized force that believe it can negotiate with the state at power. So, now, if you look at it very well, that would be the second retired general that has been abducted in Katsina within a year. If you go to Ekiti State, gunmen attacked a church service in April, killed the pastor, and 16 worshippers, including young boys. I've been very cautious about not using the word, no, but let me say, they unalived the pastor, they abducted the 16 worshippers, including young boy. And as at this morning, as at this time I'm making this recording, today is 7th of June. More than 5 weeks later, they are still aired. A ransom of 10.5 million naira was paid. The captors simply demanded 50 million more. That's how bad it is. If you go to Borno State, the original heartland of this insurgency, last month, more than 400 people were taken in single Boko Haram operation. But up to today, nobody has been arrested. We don't even know those who are behind them. And this week, okay, today is Sunday. It's going to be last week, right? There was another attack on a military base where they killed soldiers and vigilante fighting beside them. Now, if you want to put numbers on them, according to one of the widely cited conflict data set, roughly 30 1,000 people have been killed in violence across Nigeria since 2003. Churches are suspending night vigils. In fact, I would not encourage anyone to go to night vigil. Like one of this comedian I follow, in his latest release, said any night vigil that is not done on Zoom, you're on your own. I'm not coming. And I agree with him. He's a comedian, but I agree with him because it was making sense. So churches are suspending night vigils. Parents are afraid of sending children to school. And that really broke my heart because when you target young people who are supposed to be the future of that country, when you destroy schools, you destroy that nation. Farmers cannot reach their feed. And if farmers cannot farm, what are we expecting? Famine, hunger, right? That's so bad. A danger that was once regional has now become national. It's been spread equally now. And no longer we insist it belongs to someone else region, someone else party, someone else failure. Now, the more national it becomes, the more we say that. And if you look at it, that is the map. Northeast, northwest, north central, southwest, southeast. The reality is that there's no longer any kind of safe corner to point to at this point in time. Now that takes me to that part that nobody names, the perception war. And I want to tell you what I believe is actually happening because I spent my career studying this as an Homeland Security professional. And I think the public conversation is looking at the wrong scoreboard. And I will tell you why. Boko Haram and ISIS and all the non-state actors operating in Nigeria and their affiliates, they are not fighting a conventional military war they can win. They cannot hold our cities. They cannot defeat our army in open confrontation. So what are they doing? They are fighting a different war, a war of perception, a war of what you, the ordinary citizen, believe about your own government. And the objective is psychological. It is to convince you that your state can no longer protect you, and it's working. That your soldiers, they are helpless. That police are absent at every point in time. That Abuja is a spectator to your suffering. And the moment you believe that, the fear does the work that their weapon cannot do for them. And that's why we have to be very careful. Look at their tactics. Look at their tactics through the lens they snap into focus. Why demonstrating how you unalive a teacher and you film it? That is not for military advantage. A video is a weapon aimed at the national mind. Why parade weaponized drones? They want to create impression of technical superiority. Of course, on several occasions, our Air Force have used such systems against them. The impression is the point, and that's what they want you to believe. Why hunt and kill senior military officers? They are doing that to send one message to the world. The Nigerian military is weak, whether it is true or not, it doesn't matter to them. They are only selling that story, and they want the world to understand that. And that's what they want the world to believe. And this is where the digital dimension really matters, which is why the episode is as much for the cybersecurity and information professionals in my audience, just as soldiers, and also the policymakers. The same tool that carry legitimate communication, social platform, encrypted messaging, viral video can be turned into instrument of psychological warfare. Remember that first rescue rumor in Oyo State. Remember the police pleading with bloggers and influencers not to amplify unverified claims. And that is the enemy preferred terrain. Confusion, panic, the sense that no one is in control. On the battlefield, one that decides whether a society hold together or come apart is you. We are losing, not because our troops are losing. Our men and women in uniform are dying in numbers. The public really sees that. The public really sees the sacrifice they are making. We always insult them. We are losing because we have surrendered the narrative, and too often we surrender it to ourselves. And that takes me to government's response, and I want to be honest on both sides. And I want to be fair because honest analysis requires it. The government had not done nothing. In November, and let me explain it very well, because I don't want to put it straight that the government is trying its best. In November, the president declared a national security emergency and ordered mass recruitment into the security agencies. It didn't stop there. It changed the IGP. It withdrew police officers from VIP duty to return them to repolicing. He has procured mine-resistant vehicles and new ammo equipment. He relocated service chief to Maiduguri to focus on the fight. And the most significant development of the year, beginning on the 16th of May, Nigeria and United States launched a joint military operation against ISWAP and Boko Haram in the northeast. A senior ISWAP commander, of course, was neutralized. And by official account, around 175 militants were also unalive, were also neutralized in the first days. So we can see that those actions exist. The honest question is whether it is the right action and whether it reaches the root of the problems. And that's what we need to be asking ourselves. And here's my concern, and I want to state it plainly. Most of this kinetic and most of its hardware, of course, they have their place. More weapons, more strike, more vehicles. These things have their place, but they do not by themselves rebuild one of the things that the enemy is trying others to destroy, which is public trust. You cannot procure trust. You cannot extract your way to legitimacy, and that's very important. And the foreign intervention, of course, it offers tactical gain, what we've seen from the United States from December last year. But at the same time, it carries real strategic risk. When the campaign is framed abroad as religious crusade, as they are killing Christians, as the rescue of one of the faith from another, well, it plays directly into the hands of the enemy. It lets them recast themselves as the defenders rather than predators, which of course they are. It can alienate every communities whose trust the state needs most in Nigeria. So Nigeria crisis is very complex. We have to understand that. It is banditry, it is jihadism, it is competition over land and water, it is ungoverned space, it is criminal economy. Flattering that into single religious story is not just inaccurate. It is strategically dangerous. And that brings me to the hardest part of this conversation, the politics of it. In the days after the Oyo abduction, a former governor went on national television and suggested that the kidnapping had been orchestrated by the state government to embarrass the president. He offered no evidence. He even said he might be wrong, which of course is wrong because there's no evidence. But the damage had been done already. The damage of such a claim is not in whether it can be proven or not. It is in what it teaches a frightening nation like that of Nigeria, that murder teachers and stolen children are not a wound to be healed together, but a weapon to be used against a rival. And that's very sad. Let me be careful and precise here, because precision is what I owe everyone listening to me. Not everyone raising their voice is playing this game. When opposition figures like Omoyele Sowore and co demand the urgent rescue of those children, that is not politicization. This is accountability, and accountability is the lifeblood of every democracy in the world. When a citizen asks why no one has been prosecuted for abduction of 400 people in Borno, and they are not doing that to undermine the state, they are doing its conscience a service. Even the combative minister of Federal Capital Territory, that's the person of Nyesom Wike, a man not known for restraint, felt compelled to warn that insecurity must not be turned into any kind of political contest. So I'm not asking anyone to be silent. I'm drawing a line. On one side, legitimate scrutiny, like of the one coming from Omoyele Sowore, asking government that owns the security architecture and own its failure. On the other side, the cynical manufacture of conspiracy over the bodies of children. I mean, that's embarrassing coming from a former governor. The first thing what people like Omoyele Sowore and co are doing, strengthening the republic. And what is coming from a disgraced former governor does terrorist work for them. Exactly, that's what he's doing for them. Insurgents want fractured society, and every politician who scores a pound of kidnapped child is placing the enemy bet on the nation's behalf. So, what do I actually recommend? Because after speaking, I have to recommend something. And let me give you 5 things. And none of those 5 things are not just slogan. They are not slogan. First, intelligence rooted in community trust is very important. You cannot find hostage in the forest that size of the country without people willing to tell you something. When you see something, you have to say something. People talk to stay the trust, and that's why we need to build the trust. Every act of impunity, every abuse, every broken promises raise the price of that trust. And rebuilding it is not just soft policy. It is the hardest, most operational work, which of course we have to do. The second part of it is accountability, and that's the accountability that public can see. When more than 400 people were abducted in Maiduguri, and up to today, nobody has been arrested, nobody has been taken to courtroom, people will start getting worried. Every gang in the country received that same message. The message that Nigeria is open for business. Impunity is recruitment. Prosecution is deterrence. And that brings me to what I said earlier on, that I was interested in knowing the names of those who actually abducted the relative of former minister. Because crime is not about tribe. But when the criminals see the signal, when they get the message that they can do anything, they can get away with it, then they become emboldened. Now that takes me to the third point. A serious move in policing structure And I want to commend the current government for that. And we need to talk to Senate to speed it up. The Senate is now moving very fast, fast tracking the state policing. Of course, reasonable people are already talking about the fact that, okay, it could be hijacked, the state may misuse it. But let us be realistic. The current model, where a single centralized police force is expected to secure every village in the nation of this size of Nigeria, of course, is failing. We already know it's failing. So the debate must be hard, in open, and soon. At some point, I recommended the US model of National Guard with dual responsibility that could be deployed by the state governor and also by federal government, because every crisis is local. So, and that's why state policing is very important. So, the fourth part of it is the one my colleagues in the information and technology field have to pay attention to. We need deliberate information defense. Countering propaganda and disinformation cannot be any kind of afterthought handled by a panic press release. It has to be planned function of national security, staff, and resource, because the enemy treats it as primary front. And the fifth one and the final one, we get to own the mission. Accept help. Yes, accept help. But a country that outsources its own security surrenders something it may not get back. So we need to be very careful. The strategy must be Nigeria, accountable to Nigerians, and build for the long fight. How we recruit into our army, how we recruit into law enforcement, it should not be the one that the politician will be bringing their thugs who rig election for them. And that's why the reform is very important in our security agencies in Nigeria. When we are recruiting, we should not recruit the so-called repentant Boko Haram to be the one guiding us, right? They should not be, except we want to go and fight an external war that we need everybody, even prisoner, to join the fight, like Russia is doing. But recruiting ex-Boko Haram or the so-called repentant criminals or those who that have worked for politicians in rigging the election, then we are going to be preparing for something worse. The strategy, again, must be Nigeria, accountable to Nigerians, and built for the long fight, not the next news cycle, and certainly not the next election. And with that, I would like to close, close with this. And I want to go back to those children, those students, those teachers who are still presently in the custody of their abductor. I'm talking about Orire local government. This is terrorism at its core. And that's the test. It asks whether a society will all together or come apart, right? The men who unalive Michael Oyedokun and film everything for everyone to see, to scare us, they are betting that Nigeria will come apart. But there are a lot of things that bring us together than all those small things. Their agenda is to see us turn against one another. Here we are. That they are thinking that we are going to make that mistake of looking at our neighbors to be our enemies and be suspecting everybody, while the real enemy advances under the cover of our chorus. We're not going to fight over this. We are going to unite. So I will not want to accept that bet. And I believe Nigeria can refuse it as well. But refusing it requires leadership that galvanize instead of divide, a public that demand accountability without surrendering to the despair, a strategy that understands the decisive ground is not a forest or border. It is the belief of the people. It is the art of every citizen that this nation will protect them and will not abandon them at every point in time. And that is what the message you need to tell every family. That's the message you need to tell every young people. Technology will not save us. A united, clear-eyed will lead Nigeria, and that's what is going to help us. The hour is late, but it's not over yet. Again, this has been the OSRS Intelligence Brief. At Ogun Security Research and Strategic Consulting, we provide strategic analysis, threat assessment, and advisory support to government, business, and security teams navigating exactly this kind of threat. From counterterrorism to transnational cybercrime to the risk of information age, we are here for you. If this analysis was useful to you, I want to encourage you to share it with your colleague who needs to hear and follow our work for more. Again, I am Oludare Ogunlana. Until next time, stay sharp, stay safe, and stay united. Thank you.